So what does a healthy organisation look like? I'm not going to go into what a conscious business is. There's obviously a lot of definitions out there, but I'm going to go into what I think a healthy organisation looks like. So normally I take people on a three-stage journey through. Often, if they're diminished, they've got to do some radical changes. But a lot of the time, my clients come to me when they've realised that they've got to play catch-up, or they're trying to play catch-up at the moment. And it's about getting their technology set up, understanding what they need to do, the changes they need to do, getting organised so they're getting their IT systems and their data out properly, then being able to make data-driven decisions, which then allows them to look at how we focus on customer, that then allows them to actually go, right, what's important? It's a purpose-driven organisation as opposed to profit-driven. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have profit maximisation. We just need to have a purpose that transcends profit maximisation, so we can do profit maximisation as well as being in alignment with a purpose. The fundamental shifts that have caused this look similar to this. So it's the triple bottom line was floated 20, 25 years ago. The idea is that, yes, profit is absolutely imperative, but we need to look at, is it environmentally friendly as well as is it people friendly? We have to make it sustainable so it is looking after the planet as well as the people. And the people is not just the customers we serve or the people that live on the land that we happen to be moving off the land to build factories or whatever that is. It also is the people in the organisation that are being stressed out their minds to hit quarterly targets or even monthly targets in this drive for more and more profit. Fundamental shift number 2. So away from siloed thinking, it amazes me how many organisations still have siloed thinking. Whether you might be proactive in this organisations that which might not have this, but I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, I was involved in a project, solar panels into a large organisation, and we had demonstrated mathematically they would get a return on investment in 9 months. So if they were to put these solar panels in their organisation after 9 months, they would have a cost benefit. The gentlemen that we were involved in, the team we were involved in, they were operational expenditure. And he said, well, I love it, I haven't fitted in a moment, but unfortunately I can't sign off on that because that's capital expenditure. So you need to go and speak to this guy. So we went across to speak to the capital expenditure team, met with them, talked them through, and the guy goes, it sounds amazing, yeah, I think we should do it. I can't do it today though. Okay, well when can we do it? Well, I've got a priority pipeline that I've got to go through for my spending. It'll give you a positive impact after 9 months, but that won't give me a positive impact in my budget. So I still have to find the money. The fact that it gives somebody else a positive impact in their budget doesn't affect my budget because the budgets were siloed. And we just hear that time and time again. So this is the old version of organisations. And how do we start to change that thinking? We need to start thinking about how to set up networks of teams. So, for example, we're looking at natural language processing, we're looking at AI, we're going to borrow Steve from accounts, Mary from engineering, we're going to borrow Tim from sales and marketing, we could bring together and have a task team. And we're going to work together, and there's a flexibility in the organisation to bring funds from different parts to do a task team and a little micro project, as opposed to the old way of doing things. Fundamental shift number 3 is transparency. Everybody's heard about blockchain and Bitcoin, and in essence, Bitcoin it's something called no trust, which basically means that because every transaction is written in ledger, there's no such thing as trust because everything's there bare for everybody to see. You can't falsify it or break it. That's the plan anyhow, but quantum computing might actually change that. So we're moving away from blind trust and faith, and we've all experienced it with the news. I know my parents used to, if the tread of McDonald on the BBC News said, it's raining pink cows outside, my parents would have watched TV and gone, really, Jesus? Because of who that guy was. He'd done the news for 30 years and so had absolute trust and authority, but that doesn't exist anymore, especially not with the younger generations. So we're now moving towards this trust is earned, and how do we completely keep earning trust, both inside our organisations with our employees, but also outside our organisations with our customers and our stakeholders. And it's really easy to break trust, especially when, for everything you do in wellness and culture programs, you then have a absolute profit is relentlessly above everything else, and you destroy everything you've done when you force people to think a certain way just to get a profit. Fundamental shift number 4, away from factory education. So currently, most organisations hire individuals that have got great scores, that are doing very well, they have been ducks or got great qualifications, when in actual fact, this book by Anya talks about there's a move now in schools to move away from actually teaching people, educating, and actually helping them to be thinkers, to teaching them how to pass tests. Because of the fact that the school has to pass the test to get the higher up in, so they can get more students, so they can keep their money flow going. So therefore, they're not looking at, number one, how do we get the kids the best well educated? It's how can we get them passing tests better? What we really need is original thought and creativity. There was a futurist in Brussels recently who was addressing the UN who said that the only qualification we're going to need in the future when AI really takes hold is philosophy. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but it's indication that a lot of these, lawyer skills, AI's already started doing basic law skills. Doctors, AI's already started diagnosing symptoms at basic level. It's just a matter of time until they get really much better, and there's even talk of a basic human wage for us because of how technology is going to start performing. So we need to start thinking differently so we can create new businesses and new ways of doing things. Integrated, both left brain and right brain, although this is a bit of an outdated model because it's not left brain and right brain, but indicative of the mathematical and science type brain and the creative and arts. And then number 5, this is probably the most important and is certainly the most profound. The mechanical model was developed by Descartes in the 1600s, or certainly he put it forward, which is that everything works and operates like a mechanical machine. Humans are a mechanical machine. Everything in nature is a physical, mechanical machine. And that's just simply not true anymore. There is now a proof and findings that we've moved towards what's called the quantum wave particle duality. Now, I'm going to explain that a little bit more later on, but simply what that means is that although it may appear physical, by the act of observing it, we can change how it shows up. They've shown that in education in the States, where the teacher's been told a certain thing about their students and then measured their students, and their students show up not how they were measured before the teacher was told, but how they were showed up by what the teacher thought of them. So we have this real capacity to manipulate and mold and change behavior and environment and things around us as a result of this newfound understanding in science. In essence, what it's saying is that things have two states. That's why it's a wave-particle duality, so duality of the wave and particle. What that means is that, like it says here, it's a bookshop, which is a physical thing. It also behaves like a wave. When we're observing it, it's physical. It actually exists there. When we're not observing it, it's a sea of possibility. So how that would be with behavior is, when we're observing a particular behavior, that's their behavior, they're locked into it. But when we're not observing it, it's just a potential of the behavior they can display, and that they might display other behaviors. So people aren't just a moody person or an angry person. They may look like that, but they're just exhibiting moody or angry behavior. And so this is a new way of looking at behavior, so we can change and understand that people aren't maybe what we think they are in organisations, and it leaves a room for them to change. I've already gone through what I believe health is. I don't believe that you can have organisational health without an alignment of the people and the planet. Literally, if anything you're doing is out of kilter with the environment or out of kilter with the people, then that is going to cause a lack of ease, which is dis-ease in the organisation. Going through the 3 stages, survival stage, which is really we're just having to take action. Now, I'll give you an example of some, for me, ill thinking. I've got a client at the moment who is, they're in the phase where they've played catch up. They've got a new product. They've got a SaaS product, a software as a service product, but they're still selling their box product because their market, there's nobody else competing against them. And so therefore they're going to continue selling their box product because they make more money out of it. They've got their new software as a service product, which is much better for their clients, ready to go, but they're not going to sacrifice their income until somebody else comes out and does it, and they're forced to do it. Which to me is very short-term thinking, because that's destroying trust in an organisation. Where I see this starting is that we've really got to start with an individual getting to the point where we optimize our own psychology and our own performance. Then, at the same time as developing our foresight of what technology is coming and what's happening in the market, we also introduce the leadership to get the leadership to start becoming their best they can be. And I'm being a bit ambiguous now. I'll come into what I see this is in quantum psychology a bit later on, which is what's going to transform the health of organisations and really get you purpose driven. Then once we've got that happening, you can run at the same time, get your operational foundation running and customer intelligence. I'll move on the slide because it gives a better explanation here. So I'll explain what HBQC is, because that's the new technology that I'm talking about. So self-understand it, leadership understand it, and then deliver it to the whole culture. At the same time, get your IT organised, get making data-driven decisions, and optimise your profit. Then that gives you the space to start testing out new things and then ultimately transforming your organisation into a different way of doing things. This just gives some examples of what they might look like. So in the HR, it would be conscious thought, conscious attention, mindfulness, self-well-being. In marketing sales, it might be maximize ROI and getting the lowest cost per acquisition, lowest cost per acquiring a new customer. So it's the people, basically, that are going to transform organisations. And I know that I'm talking about stuff we already know. Of course it's the people. Who else was going to do it? So the way that I see it, the process that we go through is building the capability. Right now, at the moment, that a lot of people in organisations, they're not really aware of the trust, the fact there's coming no trust through distributed technology ledger. They don't realise this particle wave and what does quantum mean to us? What effect does it have on my life? Like, they don't even have awareness of it, let alone capability to understand what that means. And then building the capacity of what does that mean to my business and how do I do it? And then ultimately, now they've built the capacity, learning how to be congruent so that just is who they are and how they express themselves, so that they don't make a mistake and go back and go, well, actually, 90% of the time I'm a nice person, but 10% of the time I'm nasty, because that 10% undoes all of the work. So remember the 5 shifts that we just did a minute ago? This is where we start. We start on this journey to self-actualization. Most of the time, in the West, we've got these two, although I would say that this one at the moment, safety and security, has been questioned with some of the redundancies and unemployment that's happening in some of the organisations at the moment, or freeze on headcount, let alone are they getting any of the team actually feeling like they have a sense of belonging. I know you said, Alice, you're very much a purpose-driven organisation and very much go towards this love and belonging. And so in some organisations, absolutely you do have it. A lot of organisations, though, they're still on this military pyramidal scheme type power, and therefore there's no belonging. It's not willful obedience. It's do that or get fired. And so that affects the self-esteem. You want to tell the boss that they're not barking up the right tree, they've done something wrong, but you can't tell the boss because you have to do as they say, and so therefore you haven't got self-esteem. And because of that, we're not getting up to this capacity of creativity, spontaneity, and inner meaning and purpose, and this capacity we have as human beings to really transform what's happening in the world.